I'm Stephen Foskett from Gestalt IT and Tech Field Day, and I am here at Pure Accelerate in San Francisco, California today. This is, I think, the third or fourth Pure Accelerate event that I've been to, and I'm excited to be able to sit down with some of the folks from Pure and learn about what they're announcing and maybe dive deep into some of the specific topics.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm Jason Nadeau, and I lead the Pure product marketing team.
So, Jason, this morning we had the big unveil keynote. We basically had the whole Pure management team on stage, including yourself. With you can't see the orange pants, but
orange pants.
You know, this is Pure Storage after all. So we got a lot of socks, a lot of pants, a lot of pocket squares. So tell me a little bit about what we saw this morning at the keynote.
Yeah, we introduced a lot of innovation. I think some of the highlights, certainly from my point of view, are the new FlashArray X family, which is going to bring NVMe performance, density, scalability to everybody with a $0 premium compared to our traditional FlashArray M, all on an effective capacity basis. So that's big news. We're going to basically sort of, in many respects, run this playbook again and democratize NVMe like we did with Flash back when. Some other big announcements on the analytics side. We have a new AIRI, which is our AI-ready infrastructure in partnership with NVIDIA. It's a smaller version to help customers get going easily. We also introduced a bunch of announcements in software for cloud, especially for private cloud, hybrid cloud environments, really to make the whole infrastructure operate like a service from a technology perspective, in a container-based environment, VM-based environment, you name it. Now, one of the things that really also personally excites me is the consumption model that pairs up with a lot of that cloud software. And so that's an area that I think is going to be, a whole new business for Pure and a much better way of consuming technology, particularly for cloud environments.
Yeah, and I actually keyed into that during, the keynote, the pre-briefings, and the analyst briefing just now, because you said something, that's kind of important and earth-shattering for customers, and that is that we've got some new accounting standards coming out that are going to, in a way, invalidate a lot of the benefits people think they're getting from leasing. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It's actually quite a significant change in terms of how financial treatment of leases is being done. And so, the net, first of all, stepping back, there's a lot of folks out there, and more that they're kind of growing every day, that want to consume their technology on a pay-per-use basis, with OpEx dollars, not just with CapEx dollars. Lots of reasons for that: experimentation, seasonal workloads, short-term budgets, all sorts of different reasons. And leases have been traditionally how people did that. But there's, first of all, leases, by the way, are not very cloud-like, right? It's a series of products just with financing wrapped around them and a lot of disruption getting from product to product. But the big financial change is that the International Accounting Standards Board it rolled out new standards that essentially look at any lease over 12 months with identified assets and say that's probably going to be a capital lease with assets on the balance sheet. And that means that the vast majority of operating leases will no longer be considered OpEx. So it's a really big change for not only for storage teams, but especially for finance teams and CFO organizations. It's a change that we think is actually going to surprise a lot of people. Unfortunately, the standards were actually introduced a couple of years ago, but they don't actually go into effect until the beginning of 2019. So there's sort of like this lull for people to try to get ready for it, but candidly, I'm not sure how many people are really truly aware. So it's something we've been aware of, and we've been actively building and designing a new offering specifically for, and that's what we were super excited to announce. We call it the Evergreen Storage Service, or ES2 for short.
And that really leverages on, from a technology perspective, it leverages this Evergreen storage story that we've been hearing for years now, which is essentially instead of buying a new system and then moving all the data from the old one to the new one and then throwing out the old one, you are able to basically connect the systems up, have the system move the data, then you can retire the old storage, you can retire the old controllers, you can kind of rebuild the car while it's driving.
That's right, and I would even go as far, it's even simpler than that, in the sense that you don't bring in a net new array and connect it to the old array. It's the same array. The components are literally just getting swapped out non-disruptively, kind of one after the other. So the whole physicality of our storage can change, 100% of it, in fact, in the field, non-disruptively, no planned downtime. It's really amazing stuff. That same technology DNA, you're absolutely right, that we brought to the Evergreen Storage Service. And so now customers are going to get this nonstop service. The difference fundamentally being, instead of paying us with predominantly CapEx dollars and owning the equipment themselves, customers can rent. And so they can have a short-term 12-month subscription, and then after that, we can take the equipment back. It's our equipment. Customers are simply renting the SLA just like they would do in the public cloud. So
they're not renting the array. They're renting the capacity, which is a big difference.
Service.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So like the closest analogy, which is a very apt analogy, is the public cloud. When you go to the public cloud, you're gonna, like for example, think about the Elastic Block service from Amazon, for example, AWS. You're buying or renting, I should say, storage capacity, right, on an effective basis. You're not renting equipment. You're not renting raw terabytes or anything like that. It's the outcome that you're renting.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Evergreen Storage Service. And so, one of the sort of the really interesting benefits here, if you look at any flash array, any data reducing array, right, which flash arrays tend to be, the data reduction is variable, right? Depends on the data that's coming in. And so one of the things that CapEx buyers have had to deal with, is, well, gee, how much storage do I actually need to buy given my data reduction variability? And it's something that we help them with. We have even guarantees around that to ensure they get the amount of capacity they want for our standard CapEx arrays. ES2 simplifies all that. Like, there's data reduction becomes Pure's responsibility. It's not something that customers need to think about. They really are just going to consume the SLA. It then becomes our responsibility to add more storage into the environment.
Whatever you need to meet that
whatever we
SLA.
need. That's right. That's exactly right. That's our responsibility, not the customers. And so they can just focus on using the storage to do whatever they want, which is the whole idea.
Which is exactly. That's the point of the storage. And so the customer doesn't own the array. They're not even leasing the array.
Correct. It's not a lease.
It's I need some capacity. It's going to be Pure capacity. It's going to be FlashArray capacity.
Yes.
But beyond that, the customer is not really concerned. And if they need more, then you guys are going to be proactively monitoring usage and provisioning more and bringing things online. And if they need less, will you take stuff out?
Yes.
And that actually leads me to an interesting point, and this came up in our discussions a few hours ago. Does that mean that you're literally going into their data center and yanking equipment, perhaps?
Yes.
Because it's your equipment.
Yes. So part of the contract, there's an agreement, between us and our customers, and also including our partners as well. This is a joint offering delivered in combination with our partners. We're a 100% channel organization, and it absolutely has the right for Pure, our representatives and our partners as well, to go into the data center, add equipment, make upgrades, remove equipment as necessary. Of course, being completely respectful of data governance issues and making sure we destroy data as necessary. But yes, we absolutely do that. It's all on the customer's premises. So I want to be clear: the Evergreen Storage Service isn't a public cloud from Pure's point of view, right? It's still our equipment going into a customer environment. In many cases, we do have partners who offer hosting services and other sort of means of taking our storage and now our storage service and wrapping other storage services around that full stack stuff, and could be consumed by end customers as a public cloud.
And this could be very valuable in a shared data center environment, right? I mean, if one of your partners is in a like a shared data center, they could really have storage as a service locally to that space, right?
Completely. Yeah.
Could it be multi-tenant?
No, this is on a customer by customer basis.
But since the Pure stuff scales down, it doesn't really need to be multi-tenant.
Correct.
Because it scales down and it scales up, so you don't need to have multiple people sharing one array.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. The other thing that we think is going to be really exciting here is if you sort of step back for a second and say, hey, what are people trying to do in many cases? If they want this sort of OpEx flexibility, pay-per-use flexibility, they don't just want it for storage. They you want it for everything as much as you can get it. And in many cases now, hybrid becomes a much more feasible operating model. So with ES2, you can actually have, for example, a colo facility, Equinix connected into, say, AWS or Azure, run ES2, and have it connected into public cloud for compute. Yeah. And the whole thing is scalable and on demand and pay per use, right? From storage all the way through to compute to application PaaS services. you name it.
That's a really interesting use case, because essentially then what they're getting in public cloud is owned storage in public cloud. And of course, this storage has all the features that you would get from the FlashArray.
Absolutely.
So it's not just capacity, it's not just performance, it's real enterprise storage that they're using in the public cloud.
That's exactly right. And so that's why we're, our customers so far, we've been actually selling ES2 for a little while now, and just really going GA broadly with it, here. They love this fact, right? That they can just kind of pay for it as they want. They can mix and match. It's the true cloud model flexibility in an environment that they control, and they own the data, and then they can expand elastically, adding compute as needed and pass services as needed.
It's too bad there's not a word for it. I'm trying to think of something. I mean, captive cloud. I mean, in a way, it's kind of a private cloud, but you wouldn't want to say that because it's not the customer's private cloud. In a way, I don't even know what to call it.
That's a bigger issue in terms of like, what is a cloud, right?
Yeah.
And with the different levels of abstraction, depending on whether you're going through a managed service provider, of some sort. Yeah, it could be any of the above. I mean, whether it's on-prem private cloud, hosted private cloud, end user consumed public cloud because it went through an MSP. At the end of the day, it's cloud model consumption that we're giving people here when they want it. Yeah. And the other thing that we're clear with folks is that if you want to save money, if that's the goal, not flexibility, then you should just buy the storage.
Yeah.
It's always more cost effective to own, and most people will still do it because most workloads are reasonably predictable, and you can sort of capacity plan, and you'll save money over time. But there's a lot of interesting innovation that's happening. People have these short-term needs, and we want to give them an option.
Mm-hmm. So how far do you think this thing's going to spread for Pure customers and then for the broader industry? I mean, do you think this is going to be, 20% of your market, or do you think this is just going to be, is this a corner case? Is this a big use case? Is this going to take over all of storage?
No, it is absolutely not going to take over all of storage. So if you even look today at the mix of, call it CapEx versus OpEx, you're in the 10 to 15-ish% range for OpEx consumption. And we don't think that's going to change dramatically. I bet this is my own personal hypothesis here. It's probably maybe going to grow to 20%. But again, most people, most workloads, most of the time, you're better off economically to own the asset.
Yeah.
And once you get to especially as you get to bigger scale, you have more flexibility and control there to across the whole environment. So. It's going to be a smaller part of the environment. Not a corner case though. 15-ish, 20%. That's still a reasonable amount of storage.
That is absolutely.
And again, who can say for sure how the future holds? I mean, we're definitely seeing this continued demand for as a service for flexibility, right? So anyway, we're excited just to have the option, and we'll see kind of what the market does with it. Yeah, and it's interesting as well. What we might see is companies. This might be a new market for Pure, as you mentioned. Kind of cross connects in colo or in public cloud. This could become a new market, and so it could be bigger than you think. Yeah, it's possible.
Or maybe it'll just deal with this current leasing situation.
Yeah, that's right. It's hard to say. So we're just. As I mentioned, excited to have an option and then see where it goes. Yeah. That's kind of what innovation is. Yeah. It's really a big part of the Pure philosophy. It's fundamentally try things out, see what happens, adjust, and really just try to think it through as best as we can to see what's like the ultimate ideal thing. And we think we've come, at least so far, our customers are telling us, pretty close with ES2, but we're always looking to improve.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It's great to talk with you. It's great to learn about this new aspect of enterprise IT that I didn't see coming, and I think a lot of your customers probably didn't see it coming either. And as a hint, I think a lot of the competitors didn't see it coming. So we'll see if there are similar responses, if they have a response. I have a feeling they're going to need one in another year or so when this all takes effect. So. If you enjoyed this video, thank you very much for watching. You can find more like this on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and look for Gestalt IT. And we also have, gestaltit.com is our blog, and you can find our podcast, the On-Premise IT Roundtable podcast. We're using premise correctly. It refers to a statement of belief. You can find that in your favorite podcast platform. So for me, Stephen Foskett, thank you very much for joining us here at Pure Accelerate 2018.